This slimy mass is an alien parasite that, after bonding with a host, transforms into a bloodthirsty monster with superpowers. These are the symbiotes. Today, let's join Movie Honey to review all the symbiotes that have appeared on screen, from the well-known Venom to Carnage. We definitely have to start with the most famous symbiote in comics and on screen, right? Venom is one of Spider-Man's most notorious villains, ranking alongside the likes of Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. Venom first appeared in 1980 in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 252 as a black suit and was fully revealed in issue 299 years later. Comic book fans surely remember the two versions of Venom that have appeared on screen. The first was in the 2007 film Spider-Man 3, portrayed by Topher Grace in the Sony Cinematic Universe. With Venom 1 and 2, the character is brought to life by Tom Hardy. First, let's revisit Venom's origin in the movies. In Spider-Man 3, it arrives on a small meteorite that crashes into a park near where Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson are on a date. The symbiote crawls onto Peter's motorcycle and follows him back to his apartment. Later, it bonds with Spider-Man while he sleeps, transforming into a sleek, black suit. This suit enhances Spider-Man's combat abilities, but also makes him increasingly arrogant, cruel, and overconfident. Realizing he has hurt both MJ and Gwen Stacy, Peter goes to the church rooftop to rid himself of the parasite. But on that fateful night, Eddie Brock was below Peter in the church. Eddie was a photojournalist at the Daily Bugle, where Peter also worked. After being exposed by Spider-Man for using fake photos, Eddie was fired and developed a deep hatred for his former colleague. That night, Eddie went to the church to pray, asking God to kill Peter. Coincidentally, the symbiote from Spider-Man's suit fell onto Eddie, and thus, Venom was born. In Venom's standalone film, the story introduces a scouting mission involving symbiotes riding a meteor to find planets to invade. They were discovered by the Life Foundation's spaceship and brought back to Earth for experimentation. When journalist Eddie Brock sneaked into the Life Foundation to find evidence of illegal experiments, he was inadvertently bonded with Venom, and together, they escaped. In the comics, Venom's origin is somewhat similar to director Sam Raimi's adaptation, but with a more complex backstory. Venom is from the 998th generation of the alien symbiote race known as Clinter. These creatures live and reproduce by bonding with hosts. However, after being separated from its first host, Venom exhibited a desire to bond with and protect its host rather than dominate them. This behavior was quickly noticed by its kind, and Venom was imprisoned on the planet Battleworld. Many years later, Spider-Man discovered the symbiote in a strange machine on this planet, where numerous superheroes and supervillains had been brought to battle during the Secret Wars event. The symbiote transformed into a black suit that Spider-Man wore back to Earth. An amusing detail is that just before Spider-Man found it, the symbiote had briefly bonded with Deadpool. Upon realizing it was a living entity, Deadpool released it, wondering if his chaotic mind had affected it. Like its counterparts, when bonded with a host, Venom grants them enhanced strength, endurance, agility, and the ability to self-heal. Additionally, Venom can transform the host matter into tentacles to attack enemies. However, these superpowers come at a cost. The symbiotes turn their hosts into monsters that constantly crave phenethylamine, a compound found in the human brain. Fortunately, Eddie discovered an alternative source of phenethylamine to satiate Venom's hunger. It's chocolate. Regarding weaknesses, all symbiotes are vulnerable to high temperatures and loud, high-frequency sounds, which have been repeatedly used against them in various battles. Consumed by hatred, Venom and Eddie Brock initially embarked on a path of villainy. However, over time, the character evolved from a straightforward Spider-Man adversary into a true anti-hero. From their earliest appearances, Venom and Eddie Brock rarely targeted innocent people deliberately. They even put aside their enmity to collaborate with Spider-Man in saving lives and fighting more malevolent foes. In the recent comic series, Eddie and Venom teamed up with the Avengers and X-Men to defeat an ancient evil god who created the symbiotes. Arguably, Venom's most heroic period wasn't with Eddie Brock, but with Flash Thompson becoming Agent Venom and joining the Guardians of the Galaxy. It remains to be seen if Marvel will bring this storyline to the big screen for audiences to enjoy. And that's Venom, the first symbiote on our list. In my view, the story of Venom and Eddie always carries a touch of emotional depth, which makes sense given that Eddie Brock was likely the first person to consider the symbiote a friend rather than just a tool or weapon. Though they've committed numerous crimes, Venom continually strives to escape their dark past and redeem themselves. Venom may never become a true superhero, but it's equally challenging to label them as a ruthless villain. Now, let's move on to another symbiote, Carnage, Cletus Kasady, who debuted in the 1990 comic The Amazing Spider-Man number 360. Carnage made his cinematic debut in Venom 2, portrayed by Woody Harrelson. In the after-credits scene of Venom, Carnage is born from an encounter between Eddie Brock and Cletus. If you recall, at the end of Venom, Eddie visits a prison to interview a serial killer before his execution. During the visit, Eddie and Venom accidentally let Cletus bite Eddie's hand, transferring a part of the symbiote to the cold-blooded murderer. When Cletus is executed by lethal injection, a gruesome, red creature emerges from his body. Carnage immediately slaughters the prison staff and escapes with Cletus, wreaking havoc across New York and confronting Venom. Carnage's comic book origin is similar to the film. In this version, Eddie and Cletus are cellmates. One night, Venom breaks in to help Eddie escape, but inadvertently leaves behind a newborn offspring in the chaos. This symbiote then merges with Cletus's blood from an open wound, creating Carnage. That's right, Carnage is not only Venom's arch-nemesis, but also his offspring. As a result, Carnage inherits almost all of Venom's powers and possesses additional abilities, such as complex shape-shifting to create weapons from his body, and greater resistance to heat and sound compared to his father. Uniquely, unlike other symbiotes, Carnage bonds through blood rather than through the nervous system like Venom. As we have seen with Venom, symbiotes are always influenced by the personalities of their hosts. Therefore, bonding with a host as malevolent as serial killer Cletus Kasady naturally turns Carnage into a vicious and bloodthirsty monster. Before facing Carnage, Eddie Brock and Venom had already defeated another formidable foe, Riot. In Venom 1, Riot is the symbiote leading the scouting party discovered by the Life Foundation. After the spaceship crash in Malaysia, Riot bonds with a surviving astronaut. After switching multiple hosts, it reaches San Francisco and merges with Life Foundation's CEO Carlton Drake, with the intent of returning to space to summon more symbiotes to invade Earth. Fortunately, Eddie and Venom uncover and thwart this evil duo's plans. That's on the big screen, but in the comics, Riot's origin is much more complex. Riot is also one of Venom's offspring, making him a sibling to Carnage. In the comic Venom, Lethal Protector number 4, released in 1993, Eddie Brock is kidnapped by the Life Foundation. The Foundation forces Venom to produce 5 offspring: Scream, Lasher, Phage, Agony, and Riot. Riot and his siblings are artificially accelerated in their growth and then bonded with the Foundation's security personnel. Later, Riot and 3 of his siblings merge to form Hybrid. After their hosts are killed, the US military retrieves them to create a symbiote task force known as the Mercury Team. In Venom, a total of 4 symbiote entities were discovered by the Life Foundation and brought back to Earth. 6 months later, one of these symbiotes, named SYMBIOTE, was forced to bond with a rabbit by the researchers. The experiment succeeded, prompting Carlton Drake to consider using symbiotes to bond with humans. However, not long after, Eddie Brock infiltrates the Life Foundation's headquarters and discovers that SYMBIOTE has died due to not finding a compatible host. So does SYMBIOTE have roots in the comic books? This is a tricky question because, in Venom, this symbiote doesn't have a real name like Riot or Carnage, and there's no SYMBIOTE in the comics. But given its yellow coloration and the red and black patterns, we can be quite certain that SYMBIOTE was inspired by the character Scream. In the comics, Scream is also an offspring of Venom, from the same batch as Riot. After being forcibly matured, Scream bonds with Donna Diego, a former soldier hired by the Life Foundation as security. Unlike her siblings, Scream did not merge into Hybrid and escaped, becoming a standalone character. Alongside the powers inherited from Venom, one of Scream's most unique abilities is transforming her hair into long tendrils to ensnare and attack enemies. However, Donna Diego's schizophrenia makes Scream an unpredictable and volatile character. Finally, let's talk about SYMBIOTE. During experimentation, it killed two hosts due to incompatible bonding. Carlton Drake later released this symbiote to bond with Dr. Dora Skirth as a punishment for leaking the corporation's secrets to Eddie Brock. SYMBIOTE continued to wreak havoc by killing Dr. Dora Skirth, but it couldn't survive due to a lack of oxygen. This symbiote might be the most unique on our list because, unlike SYMBIOTE, Venom, Carnage, and Riot, SYMBIOTE appears to be an entirely new creature, not based on any existing version in the comics. Even the name Blue, given by the special effects team, offers no significant clues. This choice makes sense since SYMBIOTE is just a minor detail in the movie, and perhaps Sony and Marvel are saving other well-known symbiotes for future films. And that's all the symbiotes that have appeared on screen so far. A truly diverse list, isn't it? Who is your favorite character? Does anyone here dream of bonding with a symbiote of their own? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. Goodbye and see you in the next one.